Setting records first tonight on Our News Live at 7 p.m. How 2023 may become another record-breaking year for cruise arrivals, surpassing the 5 million visitors mark. Plus, how those increased arrivals have led to optimism for vendors. Our Marlena Leonard hits Junkanoo Beach. Also, money in the bank. PHA employees about to receive some long-awaited hazardous pay. And then in our news at 7:30, gas wholesalers join the fight for a price hike as retailers negotiate with government. Our news live at 7 starts now. Welcome to Our News Live at 7. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Megan Shepard. The Bahamas is expected to surpass its record-setting cruise ship arrivals this year, beating out the more than 5 million cruise ship visitors in 2019 and 2022. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism Chester Cooper making the comments as he led a delegation of top tourism executives to Seatrade Cruise Global Conference, which is the world's largest cruise industry. The conference was held in Fort Lauderdale.
So yes, cruise is important. 5.4 million tourist arrival by cruise. In 2019, this was a phenomenal record-setting year. We've matched that now in 2022 numbers, and we expect to beat it by at least 20% in 2023.
Cooper says the numbers will be even more robust once the new multi-million-dollar cruise port opens in May.
At the end of May, we'll see the opening of our $300 million cruise port. The Bahamas has been instrumental in terms of reopening the cruise industry after COVID. We harbored many ships in our waters during the COVID period. We have a very strong ship registry for cruise lines and other vessels.
And we also have the latest on Easter visitor arrivals. Our Marlena Leonard has this story coming up in our news at 7:30. But for now, she tells us how vendors are faring as we're looking at what could turn out to be a record-breaking weekend for air travel.
Airport officials are estimating 70 to 80,000 visitors coming to our shores this weekend, and vendors are saying they're ready. The numbers came from Lynden Pindling International Airport press release saying they expect passenger numbers to match or even exceed the record-breaking pre-pandemic levels this weekend. Welcome by Gloria has been open at Junkanoo Beach since 2001, and hostess Ruth Mayroll says they're ready for the crowds. When asked if they've seen more or less traffic compared to pre-pandemic times, she says,
More.
Really?
It's very good. And we have some more spring break coming on the end of April, so that should be good too.
Carol Johnson has worked at Junkanoo Beach for over 20 years and agrees that things are looking up.
They come from the cruise ship, the hotels, and the guest houses.
According to the NAD press release, the upper estimation of 80,000 air travelers would put us almost 20,000 passengers higher than this time last year. In 2019, our last Easter break before the pandemic, around 75,000 passengers went through LPIA and was our strongest year on record. Tiki Hut bar owner Byron Austin says they've seen the influx of passengers over spring break and looks forward to the busy holiday weekend.
Spring break has been amazing. It's been wonderful to see the transition from COVID to now. The numbers seem better than because before COVID, the spring break prior to, it was kind of lukewarm, but there's like an explosion and there's lots of people obviously wanting to get out. So we can see it in the numbers.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Thanks, Marlena. Paradise Island Lighthouse and Beach Club Company Limited attorneys filed their notice of appeal motion at the Court of Appeal in the case surrounding beachfront property on Paradise Island. Bahamian entrepreneur Toby Smith is seeking an order setting aside Chief Justice Sir Ian Winder's February 16th judgment that dismissed the company's claim that the government breached a lease agreement for Paradise Island's land. Smith had been fighting for land in the area to develop a $2 million Paradise Island Lighthouse and Beach Club. The Davis administration announced last month that it was giving Royal Caribbean International the green light for a $100 million beach club project for Paradise Island. 4 acres of the land granted is Crown land. It came as a complete turnaround from what Prime Minister Philip Davis said while in opposition. Meantime, police investigating the circumstances surrounding an alleged sexual assault of a 16-year-old girl. The incident reportedly occurred just after midnight on Sunday. According to reports, the teenager was walking in an area off Blue Hill Road when she was approached by two men in a black Nissan March. The men reportedly abducted the girl and took her to bushes near Munnings Drive, where they sexually assaulted the teen before escaping. Investigations are ongoing.
This segment of the news is brought to you by H.G. Christie. List your home in Grand Bahama with H.G. Christie. Visit our new office in the Port Lakaya Marketplace. H.G. Christie, celebrating over 100 years of service.
Police officers in Grand Bahama are now equipped with new technology as shot spotter technology and the body cam system went live. Police revealing the 200 body cams and one was issued to each police officer. Officer in charge of the Northern Bahamas, Assistant Commissioner Theophilus Cunningham says the new equipment is a major benefit.
This technological advantage will ensure that police officers understand their legal obligation to the public and that they are accountable for their actions. Additionally, they will also ensure that our community partners understand that we are transparent in the way we execute our duties.
Inspector Bryant Outen detailing how the shot spotter technology works.
It works as a 911 for bullets, basically shots. So what happens is we use a triangulation method in that we have sensors and it triangulates exactly where the bullets are. It also improves our evidence collection in that we recover more casings, we locate more witnesses, and we identify shootings faster. It also disrupts the shooting cycle.
It's now time for your first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center. Greg, what can we expect temperature-wise?
Well, it was a hot day today, and temperatures are going to stay warm for the remainder of the week. They're starting to cool off a little, but we're still warm outside our studios right now. Clear skies, and the light winds are going to fall off, so it's going to allow our temperatures to fall off. Your winds are out of the south-southeast at 8 miles per hour, and your feels-like temperature is still at the 80-degree mark. Temperatures around the islands tonight right now in Grand Bahama, it's 82, 78 over in Marshall, actually, that's in Abaco. Alistown, Bimini, 81, 80 in Great Harbor Key, 80 also in Nicholstown, Andros. Over in Governor's Harbor, you guys are 78. Into the Central Bahamas, 80 in Kemps Bay, as well as Georgetown. We pick up a pair of 78s in Arthurstown, Cat Island, also in Coopertown, San Salvador. Deadman's Key, 79. More 80s popping up in the Southeast Bahamas, Duncantown, Ragged Island, Colonel Hill, Crooked Island, Delectable Bay, Abrams Bay, 81, Providenciales, Tricks and Caicos Islands, you guys are 81, Matthewtown, Deep South, you are also 81 at this hour. Satellite view, nothing much to talk about, ridge of high pressure dominating our weather, lots of blue skies that allowed our temperatures to get up into the 80s, actually the mid to upper 80s. We're going to continue to see those temperatures. There's a weak front to the north of us, but that frontal boundary will continue to slide towards the east. High pressure will dominate our weather for the remainder of the week, as I said. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us. So look at your extended forecast. It's still to come.
Still to come on our news. Money in the bank for some PHA employees by the end of the month. Jamila Mizik reports on long-awaited hazardous pay. Plus, work in progress continues as the Bahamas is set to host an international road conference. And later, we turn our attention to stories from around the world as former U.S. President Donald Trump prepares for court. That's coming up when our news returns.
Oh, it's your thing. Do what you want to do. It's your thing. Do what you want to do. Oh, it's your thing. Do what you want to do.
Shareholders are very happy.
Oh, it's your thing. Do what you want to do.
Some members of the Bahamas Public Services Union will soon receive their long-awaited payouts negotiated in the recent industrial agreement with the Public Hospitals Authority. Jamila Mizik reports.
It has been agreed, and we have received a document in writing from the MD indicating that the hazard allowance would be paid during the month of April.
That's Bahamas Public Services Union President Kingsley Ferguson saying despite a delay in payment that was expected in February, employees at the Public Hospitals Authority will receive their hazard allowance by the end of this month.
We would have communicated with the MD asking whether or not there could have been a supplemental pay package put in place, particularly just to address the hazard allowance so that persons could have gotten it in a more speedy fashion. However, that would have been a challenge, and so we're pleased and satisfied that during April's pay package that persons would receive their funding.
Now, Ferguson says some individuals were already receiving compensation as it was being distributed in tiers.
The first tier of persons would have already been receiving it. Those who did not receive it initially, those persons were receiving what you call a risk allowance, and now they were upgraded to the actual hazard pay, for some which would be $200 a month, and the hazard pay was actually graded high, medium, and low. High being the ones receiving the $200 monthly, medium $150, $100, and right down to the clerk that would work on the ward that would receive something. So a number of persons would have been captured in the hazard allowance, and so basically almost everybody will be receiving some form of hazard pay.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
Thanks, Jamila. The Bahamas is set to host for the first time the 11th International Road Federation Conference. The federation has members in more than 70 countries. Deputy Director of Civil Work in the Ministry of Works, Damian Francis, noting the conference will focus on issues including road construction and design, as well as reducing the number of traffic fatalities globally.
The attendees also include specialists from around the world in their field and road safety, in designing sustainable developments in terms of our roads, and also public busing, road safety, and reducing fatalities based on an approach to design and enforcement. It also deals with climate change and the impact that will have on the road networks throughout the world and what we can do to mitigate those situations.
Climate change and its impacts on road networks will also be discussed.
We recognize that, particularly sea level rise, if you look at the Bahamas, most of our roads are close to the water level as it is today. So if you have any significant sea level rise, a lot of our road network will be underwater.
Another issue impacting the road networks here at home, the drainage system.
Drainage wells rely on what we call a head, which is a difference between the elevation of the road and the elevation of the water. So you need a sufficient difference in level to push the water down and for the well to operate or function well. If we have sea level rise and that water in that well it rises, the wells would the functionality of the well will reduce and exacerbate the flooding situation that we have now, which is it's bad in some locations.
When Our News comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as McDonald's closes its offices ahead of planned layoffs in a massive restructuring exercise. This as Belize imposes stricter travel rules for Jamaicans and Haitians in a new immigration policy. Plus, on this day in Bahamian history, in 1968, find out the singer, songwriter, and musician of Norwegian descent born in Freeport. We have the details when Our News returns. He will voluntarily surrender to law enforcement and plans to mount legal challenges. The former president has vowed to continue his 2024 bid despite the charges. A CNN source says the Chinese spy balloon that transited the U.S. earlier this year was able to capture imagery and collect some signals intelligence from U.S. military sites. The source said the balloon was able to transmit information back to Beijing in real time, and that the U.S. government still does not know for sure whether the Chinese government could wipe the balloon's data as it received it. The U.S. intelligence community last year developed a method of tracking what it says is a fleet of these Chinese balloons operating across the globe, controlled by the Chinese military. Major oil-producing countries led by Saudi Arabia say they're cutting supplies of crude again. AP reports this time the decision was a surprise and is underlying worries about where the global economy might be headed. Russia is joining in by extending its own cuts for the rest of the year. In theory, less oil flowing to refineries should mean higher gasoline prices for drivers and could boost the inflation hitting the U.S. and Europe. Between the two cuts, that's about 3% of the world's oil supply. Meanwhile, McDonald's has closed its U.S. offices for a few days as the company prepares to inform corporate employees about layoffs. That's according to a published report. The Wall Street Journal cited an internal email from the Chicago fast food giant saying U.S. corporate staff and some employees overseas should work from home while the company notifies people of their job status. McDonald's declined to comment on the report early Monday, but said earlier it would inform employees this week about staffing decisions. McDonald's has more than 150,000 employees, with about 70% based outside the United States. And now to the region, where a new immigration policy adopted in Belize now means Haitians have lost their privilege to enter Belize visa-free, while Jamaicans must show proof that they paid for lodging before they enter. Government announced the decision after a recent cabinet meeting where they discussed how nationals from both countries are using Belize as a transit point for attempts to cross into the United States illegally. Both Jamaica and Haiti are signatories to the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, which allows nationals of member countries to travel freely between states for business, cultural, and tourism purposes. The International Court of Justice announced it would deliver a ruling on Thursday on Venezuela's preliminary objection in its border dispute case with Guyana. Venezuela's preliminary objection in the case centers on their belief the court lacks jurisdiction to hear Guyana's application for it to settle the border dispute, since the United Kingdom is a necessary party to the proceedings. Guyana filed the case in March 2018, asking that the courts declare the 1899 award is valid and binding upon Guyana and Venezuela, and the boundary established by that award and the 1905 agreement is valid and binding upon Guyana and Venezuela. And finally, speaking of Guyana, the Ministry of Health says starting next month, it will be rolling out a registered nursing program aimed at training 1,000 people annually. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says upon successful completion, persons are being guaranteed a job within the health sector. Anthony, who made the announcement while delivering an address at the commissioning of a comprehensive diabetes center in East Coast Demerara, says the target is to train 3,000 people in nursing over the next 3 years. Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was April 3rd, including a complete shutdown of services at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. And then in our news at 7:30, how modular units are set to address overcrowding at the Rand Memorial Hospital. The story when our news continues.
First,
Welcome back. It's now time to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was April 3rd. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history, in 1968, Sebastian Philip Birk was born in Freeport, Grand Bahama, also known by his stage name Sebastian Bach. Bach, a singer, songwriter, and musician of Norwegian descent, was the lead vocalist for the rock group Skid Row from 1987 to 1996. Since then, he has mostly been a solo artist, actor, and a stage performer. He moved to Canada at a young age and began performing as a guitarist for the group Wicked Kid before becoming the frontman for Skid Row. Fast forward to 2012, then North Andros Island Administrator Huntley Christie ordered the names of 5 challenged voters be struck from the register after determining they were illegally registered. At the wrap-up of a voter fraud hearing on that island, he also ruled that no criminal action be brought against those voters. 2019 saw the tabling of the Auditor General's report on the National Sports Authority. It detailed the financial practices of the authority between July 2011 and December 17th. Auditor General Terence Bastian found several instances where people were hired by the NSA without board approval, and in one instance where an employee's salary exceeded the midpoint range of $50,000, among other things. Then in 2020, then Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis ordered a complete shutdown of all services that weekend with very limited exemptions. The order took effect at 8 p.m. and expired the following Monday at 5 a.m. This as the number of people and cars still traveling the streets during the lockdown and said orders handed down weren't being taken seriously enough with a surge and community spread. And finally, in 2021, was the Showman E-Bistro Ultimate Chef Competition featuring media professionals.
Second place. Bobby boys. Bobby. Give it up for Bobby. The Vaccinators. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it.
While he believed his team deserved first place, Jerome was happy to take second because ultimately he said today had a greater meaning.
It shows that we are beginning to come back. The fact that we can be outside, we can do this.
And of course, to watch that historical recap again and for all of today's top stories, visit ournews.bs. That does it for us for News at 7. Joining us now is our Italia Hall with the latest headlines. Italia. Of course, interesting but not surprising because all of the greats come from Grand Bahama, including us.
Ready, set, jet. Impressive Easter holiday travel numbers on deck. First tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. Our Marlena Leonard is on the story as hundreds of tourists crowd the streets. And any ideas in mind for the Easter holiday weekend? Well, the countdown is on and these residents are sharing some fun and meaningful ideas for you. But first, gas wholesalers also want a piece of the pie. As they join retailers in their quest of an increased margin, discussions are underway with government. Plus, some relief is expected to come soon for patients at the Rand Memorial Hospital, as several modular units are set to come on stream in just a few weeks. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment. With over
Whether you're battling a chronic condition or offsetting a new injury, Doctors Hospital's comprehensive rehab services offer the help you need now.
Go to doctors.
3 advanced facilities at Collins Avenue, Carmichael Road, and Cable Beach means your personalized plan for care is just a visit away. From physiotherapy to occupational therapy and speech and language pathology, our team approach is all about rebuilding together. For a full list of services, visit doctorshosp.com/rehabilitation. Doctors Hospital, trusted and best care now. Isn't your health worth it?
Welcome to Our News and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. Spring break may be over, but the Easter weekend is looking to bring some high numbers of air passengers in the coming days. This as Tourism Minister Chester Cooper says the Bahamas is expected to surpass its record-setting cruise ship arrivals this year, beating out the more than 5 million cruise ship visitors in 2019 and 2022. Our Marlene Leonard spoke to some tourists and also shared some tips on how to make sure your holiday weekend goes smoothly.
Lynden Pindling International Airport is expecting potentially record-breaking pre-pandemic numbers of passengers this weekend, estimating up to 80,000 travelers between Thursday and next Monday. The Smiths came in from North Carolina, and while they won't be here for Easter, they say they'll be recommending the destination to friends in the future.
We just want to take our first cruise. It's very nice. I mostly shopped.
Shop, eat,
drink,
gamble.
Yeah, we gambled a lot.
Rebecca came from France and has been here for a week.
The island is beautiful, people are so friendly. Well, the beach, do I have to mention it? Not soon, but I will be back for sure, yes.
As for this weekend, LPIA advises that where possible to avoid peak travel hours of 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And they also say due to the high numbers, passengers should aim to arrive 3 hours before any U.S.-bound flights and 2 hours ahead of international and domestic flights. Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
All right, thanks, Marlena. While petroleum retailers' plight for an increased margin on gas prices continues to grab headlines. The head of a major gas wholesaler is giving his take on the matter. Our Joshua Williams has the story.
For the past few weeks, gas retailers have been back and forth with government on proposed increased margin. The latest update coming from Prime Minister Philip Davis, calling discussions with the Petroleum Retailers Association fruitful. Chair of Sunshine Holdings Limited, Sir Franklin Wilson, says government has also engaged wholesalers in the discussions. He says they too are also seeking an increased margin, adding they feel the plight of the retailers.
The last time the wholesalers got an increment in their gas margin was shortly after 2000. I think it was like in 2003 or 4. The last time they got an increase in the margin on diesel was, I think, 1972. Obviously, that creates a lot of problems, serious problems. So we understand what the retailers are saying.
Sir Franklin says while he understands the concerns of the retailers, he believes proper research will better their fight.
It would be helpful, I believe, to the national interest if they could produce some creditable analysis as to how they got to what they're asking for. See, they're not just asking for something. They were kind of specific in what they're asking for. But I do not recall them having ever produced any report or analysis to support the basis of their request.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
While Sun Oil Chairman Sir Franklin Wilson chiming in on Attorney General Ryan Pinder's promises that the company responsible for the December Exuma oil spill will receive a penalty. The tank that spilled 35,000 gallons of diesel was contracted by Sun Oil Limited. Wilson says they're not hiding.
The AG kept his word, and he
Well, police continuing their due diligence to take firearms off the street between March 27th and April 2nd. Police removed 9 firearms, including 8 pistols and 1 revolver, along with 255 rounds of ammunition. Police also arrested and are questioning 12 adults and 1 juvenile male in connection with the weapons. Additionally, 6 men have been charged by officers from the Anti-Gang and Firearm Investigation Task Force for possession of an unlicensed firearm and ammunition. These suspects were apprehended by officers attached to the Drug Enforcement Unit, along with Operation Ceasefire, Anti-Gang and Firearm Investigation Task Force, and the Eastern Division. Drug Enforcement Unit officers confiscated a large stash of marijuana on Saturday. According to police, shortly after 9:15 p.m., Mobile Division officers were patrolling Sunrise Road in Gamble Heights. While doing so, the officers observed a man walking from a bushy area towards the road. When he saw the officers, the man ran and escaped after a short pursuit. Officers then searched an abandoned building near the bushes where they found 10 brown tape packages, each containing marijuana. The drugs weighed 46.7 pounds with an estimated street value of $46,700. We have much more to get to in a moment, but for now, we check in with meteorologist Greg Thompson, who joins us now live in studio. Greg?
Yeah, hello, Talia. This segment of your weather is being brought to you by Nestum Toddler Shake, now in some new flavors. Nice outside our studios, warm on the, warm side actually. Clear skies, the winds are out of the southeast at 7 miles per hour. Your field side temperature is at 80. Those temperatures expected to continue to fall as we have very little clouds out there and the winds are going to fall off. Weak frontal boundary to the north of us will continue to slide towards the east. Ridgified pressure dominating our weather that will continue to dominate our weather tonight through tomorrow. We're looking for some very warm temperatures once again tomorrow, so make sure you prepare for that. That's your quick check on weather. Stick with us. A look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, overcrowding issues soon to be addressed at the Rand Memorial Hospital in Grand Bahama. We'll tell you how. This as the Public Services Union is calling on the health minister to address what he calls inadequate working conditions within the healthcare sector. Plus, still figuring out how you'll spend your Easter holiday weekend. Well, this may be an idea.
I'll do beaching and swimming and all that sort of things, picnicking and all that.
And that's all coming up when our news returns.
Discover new Nestum Toddler Shakes.
For some time now, the emergency room at the Rand Memorial Hospital has not had a waiting area, forcing people to sit on the outside. Well, to address that challenge as well as other issues, Administrator Jessica Cartwright says several modular buildings will soon be open to the public.
Special pathogens unit is on its piles. It is mounted. We are seeking to secure it, and we're doing the tie-ins. And we envision that within the next 3 weeks, we'd be in a position to complete the connections, the tie-ins, and also make it ready for us to use as an inpatient space.
That's the administrator of the Grand Bahama Health Services, Jessica Cartwright, providing a timeline for the modular buildings that will house the Special Pathogens Unit and Rehab Services Unit. Cartwright revealing that the units arrived in December, but there was an unforeseen delay. She says the intent is to ensure that there's a facility that helps with overcrowding.
From what we call PUIs, or persons under investigation for COVID-19, as well as those with suspected infectious diseases, and also allow us to improve our throughput in the emergency room, and in his words, take our citizens off the porch.
And she says the team is excited about the progress.
We feel that it is something that we were planning, and to see what you're planning actually come into fruition is really a satisfying feeling. And we're just hoping that we can move in as quickly as possible at this point.
And while some employees of the Public Hospitals Authority will soon receive hazardous pay, Bahamas Public Services Union President Kingsley Ferguson said he is concerned about other members under the Ministry of Health who are working under inadequate conditions.
We have been receiving a number of complaints from the dental department in that the facilities are inadequate and they don't meet the standards. We find that dental assistants are working and the suctions are not functioning properly. The chairs are chairs that would have been there and they have deteriorated. We were assured by the Minister of Health that these things would be rectified. To date, at Elizabeth Estates Clinic, a chair was brought in, I think, from a family island to replace the old chair that is in place. It is still in the room that has been allotted for the dentist at Elizabeth Estates, and they're still occupying.
The BPSU president is appealing to the Minister of Health to address concerns he says the union has presented in writing.
We would have even given follow-up communications asking for an update on when the matters concerning the phlebotomists at the various clinics and the dental assistants at the various clinics, when that would be addressed. This has been a long-standing issue because it was something that needed to be dealt with from the previous administration. We were assured by the minister that the matter would be addressed. To date, there is no update regarding the same. And persons are very, very, very concerned that they're working in these hazardous environments. They're dealing with blood, they're dealing with feces, they're dealing with urine, and no compensation for the same.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news comes back from the break, how are you spending your Easter holiday weekend? Well, these residents may have a few ideas for you. But first,
the Bahamas Crifter swim team is ready for the 50th annual games, and the Giants win NPBA championships in Division 1 and 2. Don't go anywhere, our sports is next.
And sunny skies in the nation's capital today. Greg is back with your extended weather forecast. Stay with us.
Today's sports update is sponsored by Corona, distributed in the Bahamas by Jimmy's Wines and Spirits.
The Bahamas Carifta swim team gets ready to head to Curacao to defend their title. And we meet the new NPBA champions. Tage Adderley is here with Our Sports. Tage?
Hello, Italia. Good evening, happy Monday, and welcome to Our Sports. The Carifta swim team has one more practice before they head to Curacao to defend their title. Today, our Sasha Lightburn was able to talk to the team, and she learned that swimming in an Olympic-sized pool is not as easy as it looks. Here's a report.
The Carifta swim team has had just over 7 practices as a team since being announced back in early March. We visited their practice today to see what changed from then to now. The team, including some collegiate swimmers and swimmers from Grand Bahama, did several drills as we visited with them. Head coach of this year's team is Cameron Bruni.
They look good in the water, they look really fast, and they have good team spirit and high energy. So I think we had a really good, I think this is our 7th practice, some really good practices.
Now during the practice, I decided to see if I could make a full lap in the pool, but it was harder than I thought. I think I made it a quarter of the way, if that. We also got a chance to speak with all 4 team captains who all have the same expectations for the team.
I think we have a chance to bring home back another title. I have confidence in all of my teammates. They've been working really hard.
And we expect to come home with the 5P, you know, that's no question. I feel like once our team go there and do what we need to do, stay focused.
For me, I've seen like how we've all grown as people become closer and together. You know, like what I was saying with the relay starts, I've been able to see how we're all put together and the potential outcome for those races as well. And I think that overall, like, our team is going to bring it home 5 times.
This team is full of young studs. I mean, these guys are they're going at it. I mean, they're going against older guys, even pushing me sometimes. Like, you know, they're not afraid of competition. And
now the team does have one more practice scheduled for early in the morning. They will leave New Providence at 6:30 p.m. on a Bahamas Air charter headed to Curacao tomorrow evening. Reporting for Our News, I'm Sasha Lightborn.
Thank you, Sasha. Props to you because I wouldn't have made it that far in the pool. The Giants won 2 NPBA championships over the weekend at the AF Adderley Gymnasium. The Division I squad beat the Discount Distributors Rockets 92-78 on Friday night to win Game 3 of the Best of 3 Championship Series, completing a 3-game sweep. Dylan Musgrove led the Giants with 26 points. Eugene Bain added 22 points and 14 rebounds. And Michael Furley-Bain had 7 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists. Abel Joseph had 21 points and 15 rebounds for the Rockets. The Giants completed the sweep on the Division II side, beating the Rockets D2 team 93-79 on Saturday. Anton Williams had 19-4-5 for the Giants. Matthew Saunders had 30 points and 5 rebounds for the Rockets. The Giants organization has a few weeks to celebrate before they compete against champions from several other islands in a national round-robin tournament. And that's your look at sports. I'm Tage Adderley. Back to you, Italia.
Still ahead on Our News tonight, the Easter holiday is just a few days away. These residents are sharing their plans for the 4-day weekend. And Greg is back in the Weather Center with a look at your extended weather forecast right after this quick break. Stay with
Welcome back to Our News. Nice temperatures outside the Our News studios this evening. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is back in the Weather Center live with your extended weather forecast. Greg?
I saw Sasha in the pool just now.
Yes, that was her showing off her skills.
Bring back a medal, Sasha. Make sure you bring a medal back.
Okay,
Counting on you.
sounds great.
Yeah, it's been a nice and warm day around the islands today. Temperatures managed to get up into the mid to upper 80s. We will continue to see that trend for the remainder of the week as the high pressure system continues to dominate us. There's a weak front to the north. Most of the activity is staying to the north of us. There's a broad ridge of high pressure in the Gulf of Mexico that's going to slide across us. So we're looking for some very warm temperatures over the next several days. So make sure you drink lots of liquids, mostly water. Taking a look at our future forecast, quiet. A couple of spotty showers to the north. Grand Bahama Abaco may see some of that through tomorrow. That frontal boundary will weaken considerably and pull to the east. And of course, beautiful conditions expected. Once again, we're looking for some very warm temperatures throughout the islands. Northwest and central Bahamas, if you're doing any boating tonight through tomorrow, your winds will be east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots. Seas 2 to 4 feet over the ocean. Your high tide will be at 7:14 tonight. For the southeast Bahamas, a caution flag for you guys down there. Also high risk for rip currents. East to southeast winds 15 to 20 knots, and your seas running 4 to 6 feet over open waters. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, nothing to talk about. Temperatures will be in the mid to upper 80s. We'll start off with some low 80s, but those nighttime temperatures should stay in there the 70. And of course, sunny conditions over the next several days. Talia?
All right, thanks, Greg. Great temperatures. And with the Easter holiday weekend just days away, many are planning for the long holiday. Our Jamila Mizik tells us what some folks will be up to in this report.
While many will spend their Easter holiday commemorating the death of Jesus Christ, others will be traveling throughout the islands. Melva McPhee says she plans on spending time with her grandchildren.
Well, go on the beach and go swimming and picnicking and all that stuff. That's what I usually does.
Sandra Carey says she'll be spending her Easter weekend in the Lord's house.
Spending my Easter weekend by going to church to celebrate the death of Jesus Christ, knowing that if he didn't die for my sin, I would be lost. And even now the blood makes a difference in our lives. So it's basically that, and I might go to the beach on the Monday.
Rysenia Taylor is taking a different approach.
I will be studying and preparing for final exams at the University of Bahamas. That's what I will be doing. Not only that, I have projects to do, reports to write up, so the studying part is that's only a small part of it. So yeah, that's what Easter break is going to do for me. Church and then schoolwork. So I'm staying inside Easter break.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
All right, sounds great. Thanks so much, Jamila, and thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.